All right, so rebuilding your masculinity after experiencing narcissistic abuse. And there's a few questions you got to ask. Is number one, is this possible? And number two, how do you do it? And to answer both of those, it's absolutely possible to rebuild your masculinity in a positive way that completely balances your life out as a guy. And the way you do it is, a few different ways that kind of all add up to you being able to rebuild, retake, and grow your masculinity in a positive way. And so the first thing that I did was you have to think back on your childhood and the first two people you're interacting with, your mom and your dad. And, when you grow up with a narcissistic parent, the family dynamic is all screwed up. And so it's going to be challenging to lay that foundation of masculinity as a guy if the family dynamic is run by a narcissist. And in my case, having a narcissistic mother who was really a man-hater, a lot of what she vocalized throughout childhood and adult years to me is just like how she has no respect for men. And I think that happened just because of her relationship with her father and just losing respect for him. So, my dad, you would think naturally, okay, to build masculinity, it's men having positive male role models in their life. And yes, that is true, but it's only half of it, because so much of masculinity is based on validation from women. And if you have a screwed up relationship with your mom, the way you get validation and show affection and connect and communicate with women is completely screwed up. In my case, it was subservient. And I just became like a yes man, dog on a chain guy, non-confrontational, really passive. And so, as a kid, you're trying to build masculinity in different ways because you're not relating to women on an intimate level. So, really for me, it was through sports and being really good and getting validation from being a good athlete. And then the other way was like putting other kids down. It's just really mean to other boys. And that was like this like coping mechanism, and it was this shallow form of like dominating other people to build masculinity, which obviously results in toxic masculinity, the epidemic in society. But a big thing that I had going against me was the narcissist, in her role as the parent and providing the food that her family ate. We ate so much soy. Soy was like a huge part of our diet. We weren't allowed to eat, like beef or pork. We'd eat a ton of tofu and soy milk and, margarine, all the soy products that you can imagine. And we'd have a little bit of chicken and maybe fish, but not really. And so my whole childhood growing up until, I had more freedom of movement. I was able to go to, a fast food restaurant or something to get a hamburger. It was just like soy. And it was mostly like vegetables, soy products, and some grains, and a little dairy. And so, the problem and the epidemic in society now with the, feminization of men, with all these estrogen, with all this estrogen that's in the food, and then estrogen mimicking chemicals and compounds that are in all the plastics that the food is, stored in. It's now we have this result of all these men being feminized, and also it's affecting birth rates where there's not as many men being born. It's more girls being born. So that's a huge disadvantage for a lot of men. And that was what I was facing. And on top of that, you get influence from society and the people you're around. So when I was a kid, I lived in like a farming, ranching community that there were a lot of strong, capable men around and women and just like down-to-earth folks. But then when I started high school, we moved across the state to this super liberal town that was cool, and it was liberal, and there was a lot of support for the arts, which I gravitated towards. That's when I started playing music, getting into photography and painting and everything like that. But the people I'm influenced by are just these like full fembot soy boy men, non-confrontational, just fully passive. And the relationship with the women is just like, the women just walk all over them. And the demographic in that town, it's like 10 women to 1 guy. So it's this huge, like, it's not very balanced. And so, going through, getting into high school and then beginning to relate to women and other guys around me, it was just like, it wasn't working. Because I'm coming from this strange narcissistic family environment, and you're approaching young adulthood, and you're like coping with all this anxiety and mental anguish, and then on top of that, you're trying to relate to your peers while everyone is changing, and intimacy is beginning between men and women, and it's like really daunting. So I just chose to just shut all that down and just smoke weed a ton and skateboard. And that's what I did through high school. I just, showed up, got C's, was chiefed out all day, and then just skated with my friends and listened to hip hop. That's like all I did. I had the headphones on, I was stoned, and my friends and I just skated. And, at least it like contained everything, but it pushed everything down. And what was lame was I remember when I had first started school and I became friends with this girl, and she was really cool, man, and she really liked me, and I think if I wouldn't have been so closed off, she would have been an amazing person just to like, lay that foundation of a healthy, girlfriend and boyfriend relationship, and she was really cool, but it didn't work out. I was just too closed off. And then, so high school was just like shut down and get through it. And then I'm into the world, and we're living in this, I stayed, I didn't go to college. I just stayed and started working in the community. And I'm just exposed to this liberal, feminized male, role model situation. And I just delved right into it. Like I was like the biggest soy boy, man. I used to wear hemp pants, and I had like a scarf and, like little sweaters and sandals and like the whole thing. And it's funny looking back on it now because now I'm like a logger. But so anyway, I was like that, man, for years. And I'm just in this town, and there's no opportunities to build healthy relationships where you're building healthy masculinity. Because then on top of that, the way you learn to relate to other people is all screwed up from, the experience with the narcissist. And I'm just trauma bonding to everyone. I'm trauma bonding to narcissistic males who just want to suck your energy and abuse you. And then I'm trauma bonding to narcissistic women that just want to suck your energy and abuse you. And the first girlfriend I get, it's like really cool or whatever for a while. But I was living in this house with all my friends from high school. We all rented a place right after we graduated, and it was like this party house, and people, it was awesome. It was a fun time. But yeah, this girl, she shows up, and like, yeah, we get together, and then we date, and it's my first girlfriend, and it was like this huge emotional breakup. But then she's like in the so her living situation was always up and down, and she had this van, and yeah, so we break up, And she's like, oh, I need to park my van in the driveway. And I was kind of like, okay, whatever. But she was friends with all my roommates. So they're like, yeah, park your van in the driveway. And she just goes out every night, because we live right downtown, and just picks up dudes in the bar and just plows dudes in her van. And like this one time, I'm like waking up to go to work, and she had like plowed some rando in her van, and the dude ate my breakfast. Like I had, and I was like, the fuck is this? Some dude eats my breakfast. Like, who is this guy? And like, we just broke up like 2 weeks ago. And I was just like, man, this is crazy. And then she starts, sorry, I don't mean to complain about this woman, but it just shows these she's a full narc too. Then she starts working on my roommate to like, she's going to move in, and like, she's trying to sleep with him. And I'm like, dude, this is insane. Anyway, she found some dude and bounced out of there. But so much of masculinity is validated through your relationship with women. And like I said, if it's off, from that first woman that you're building this sense of intimate, what relating to a woman is like, it's going to be skewed. And so a big part of for guys and for myself was, you got to understand what you experienced and be able to process that and learn from it. Because to rebuild something that's broken, you got to understand how it got broken in the first place. So, me having these experiences and ultimately not building masculinity, it just resulted in me just being a pushover, non-confrontational, not standing up for myself, never saying no, and then trauma bonding to women, more narcissistic women. And what started to break the cycle was, it's when I changed my environment and the social influence around me. And I think that's a huge part of it, because just growing up and trying to relate to other fembot passive males, you're not going to get that strength that it requires to be a man in society, because the strength it requires to endure what society is throwing at men, it requires you have to be so resilient and confident and strong, and you have to be mentally strong and physically strong and spiritually strong, and you're not going to get that with a bunch of fembots, dancing around. So thank God, I got with this girl, and her parents bought this ranch in the country. And so, we move out there, and the first person I meet is like this dude that shows up, and the way we meet is so we move into this ranch, and the previous owners hired this contractor to fix up the gravel road. And so the guy fixes up the road, but he fully destroys my neighbor's fence. And my neighbor had 40 head of cattle. And, you don't destroy someone's fence that's running cattle, because then the cattle get out and it's a big pain in the ass. And if you do, you tell the guy or you just fix it. But this excavator that they hired didn't do anything. He just did the job and peaced out. And so the first day I'm there, I'm walking around oh, this is amazing, it's so beautiful. And this fucking guy pulls in this crazy car, all crazy, jumps out, and he's 4 feet tall, 4 feet wide, he's got overalls covered in grease, logging boots, a chainsaw hat, and he is so pissed. And he just comes at me and it was funny, he kept calling me a communist. He was cussing me out. He's like, you're a fucking communist, going off on me. And he, obviously, his fence is destroyed. He thought I did it. He's livid. And I was like, no, man, no, it's not. I didn't destroy your fence. I'll fix it. It's a misunderstanding. But one thing I said that lit a spark with him. I told him, listen, man, I'm not a fucking communist. Let's get one thing straight. You can be mad and, cuss me out. I get that. But let's just set the record straight. And I said that. And then he was he totally turned, and he's like, oh, you want to come over and drink beer or something and hang out? And then after that, we became friends. And his name's Eldon, and man, he was huge for me, and it really shows you get around the right people who are strong, independent men that work and have worked and have had these life experiences, and they can imprint that knowledge on you. And so that's what happened. Eldon, we would spend a lot of time together, and I was in a miserable situation, super depressed, drinking constantly, and he was depressed too. He drank like a fish. And that is what his demise was. You know, he was very thirsty, and that's what killed him. Sadly, he had a lot of wealth to share with the world. He died young at like 50 years old. But I'm so thankful that I got this little blip, this microsecond of time to spend with him, because it left a lasting impression on me. And hanging out with him and his buddies, and he had a friend that was my same age, and we would spend a lot of time together, drive up in the mountains. That's when I first learned how to rifle hunt. I shot my first deer with those guys and butchered it, and I learned all about farming and animals, and yeah, it was really cool. And there was this one event I remember that really gave me a lot of confidence, and it was like this kind of monumental event. I guess, but so I had this band with my girlfriend. I had taught her how to play upright bass and sing lead, and her and I fronted this country band. I sang lead and played rhythm. She played upright bass and sang lead, and we do harmonies, and we did a lot of original music, but we do the classic covers. We had a pedal steel player, an awesome drummer, harmonica player, and a great lead guitar player, and we were quite a spectacle. She was very pretty. She sang really well, and when there's an attractive lady singing butter smooth vocals, playing upright bass front and center on stage, it's an amazing sight to see. So we had that, and we gigged constantly, and it was so much fun. But we were at this one show, and it was at a restaurant, and a lot of times we'd play gigs where we're on the floor with all the people, and the only thing that separates you from the crowd is just a line of microphones. And so we were playing, and there was this one dude in the audience, and he was just like mean mugging me the whole time, man. And I could tell this guy did not like me, and whatever his issue was, he's mean mugging me, and whatever, I'm just playing, singing and playing, having a good time. And so he comes up, and he crosses the line of mics, and he puts his arm around my girlfriend while she's singing and playing. And he does that and looks at me, and I'm just like, what the fuck is up with this? Like, you don't do that. The audience never crosses that line. That's like our little barrier. And so, the show must go on, so we're continue playing. And he does that, and then he's like mean mugging me, and he's wanting to come, like he's like going in the audience directly at me as I'm singing and playing this song. And I remember like Eldon's voice in the back of my mind, like, fuck these people, and he used to say that a lot. And that just hit me, and I was like, fuck this guy, man. And just right in the middle of the song, I just pushed the mic out of the way. I still have my guitar strapped on, and I just go at this guy, and I grab him by the throat. I run his ass back to the end of the room and slam him on a table where two of my friends are sitting drinking beer, and the fucking beer goes everywhere. I slam this fucker down on the ground. I'm like, get him the fuck out of here. And they drag his ass out. And man, the crowd went fucking wild. It was so crazy. And then all these women in the audience like, that's a real man. They kept screaming that. And it was like, it was hilarious, man. Shutting that guy down was huge. But it was so empowering because I didn't beat the guy up or anything. I just got him out of the situation, just dominated him for a second. And I didn't need to punch his face and do all that. That wasn't necessary, but it's just taking control of the situation, bouncing that guy out, and then everyone could just have a good time. And then I just went right back, picked up the mic, and started playing and singing again, and everything was cool. And that dude was ejected because he was ruining the vibes. But, that event was really powerful powerful for me because it really showed this sense of masculinity of like, taking control of a situation and doing what has to be done in that moment, and doing it in a way where, violence isn't necessary. You don't have to I could have easily just started wailing on that guy and I'm sure it would have been fine. But I didn't need to do that. That's not necessary. So it's having control in a situation, being level-headed, but really, executing your dominance when it has to happen. And that was a huge learning opportunity for me. And so regaining your masculinity, obviously it's going to be the environment you're in. It's going to be taking chances and stepping out when these situations arrive, because there's so many opportunities in life when these circumstances, all of a sudden, dude, there's something going down, and you're the guy, and you either step up and handle it, or you shrug away, or you walk away, whatever it may be. But in that situation, I chose to step up, and it was really empowering. So I'm kind of getting these small wins that are building me up. And then, really the biggest thing was my year no contact from the narc, and focusing on my own health and turning all that anxiety and angst and anger and a sense of injustice, turning that inward, and then just starting to build my own self back up, my health, my mind, my body, my spirit, and getting that year of no contact and not knowing anything about narcissism at the time, but just happening, I was influenced by other guys of just cut this person off. She's a toxic person, and do what you got to do for yourself. Broke up with the gal. That wasn't a good relationship. It was hard leaving the band behind, but you got to get selfish. It's okay to be selfish, because if you're selfish and are focused on getting better every day, then you're only gonna be better for humanity and everyone around you. And so that's what I did. I got super selfish in a self-loving way. And what unfolded during that time was this completely different person. All of that passivity, I was so passive, and I didn't want confrontation, and I couldn't say no, and everyone's using me. All that started to fade, and so I had to move out of the ranch. So I landed at my brother's place with him and his wife, and I'm living in the driveway in this rotten cab over camper that I had, but I'm just rebuilding. I was at a super low point, and I kicked the booze. I wasn't smoking weed. I wasn't really exercising, but it was more I was just processing all this stuff. I was still playing a lot of music. I wrote a ton of songs. That was a huge part too. Still being creative, still imagining, doing stuff like that. And then what I started to do was I just started to socialize again. And I stopped drinking, but I would do this thing where I would go out to bars and hear music and hang out with people completely sober. And it's funny because I'd have bar tabs previously when I drank for a few $100, man, and it just bleeds you. But then I'd go out and stay out all night not drinking, and my bar tab would be $2 because I just have a soda water with lime. And that's the go-to. If you're at the bar, you can just get a drink, get a soda water with lime. Nobody knows you're not drinking some hard vodka tonic drink. No, and nobody really cares. And so I would just spend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights at a local bar, just connecting with people. And for the first few hours, once it hits about 12:30, 1 o'clock, that's when everyone starts to, really get sloshy. And by 2 a.m. it's a mess. And being sober and closing down a bar is quite an experience. I would highly recommend it. But anyway, by me doing that, socializing, and just rebuilding connection with people, that was big in And yeah, you could say it added to, confidence in myself, which was building my masculinity up. And then doing that, that's when I met my wife. I met her in this bar, the bar that was close to where I was living. She just walked in one night, and I'll tell a story about that of how we met, because she's been a godsend to my life. She's just an absolute angel. And after kind of going through that, and then getting married and settling down, and then starting to have children, it's key to be a strong, capable man, because now you have people relying on you. I have a wife now, I have children, I'm bringing home the bacon. All of our income is based on me, on my labor. So, I had to step up, start getting physically stronger. And this whole testosterone thing that guys are doing, it's like, stop doing that, man. It's not, I just built all my testosterone up because I was at a deficit before from being the soy boy for years and being exposed to all the estrogen. And you'd be surprised how much estrogen is in food. And you start reading the labels and you're looking at, soy emulsifiers are in everything. And so you're getting exposed to estrogen in a lot of different ways, a lot of vectors that are exposing you to estrogen. And before you start taking testosterone injections, just start cutting the estrogen. And then you can build your testosterone back up naturally with exercise and diet. And, there's ways. I'll do a video specifically on that. But, getting strong, getting fit, getting healthy. Obviously, no more booze, no more smoking weed. And then really just being present, for my wife and my children. And all of this culminates over time. It's just like little wins. Little wins will build you up. It's just the little things you do all add. And any edge you can get, will ultimately benefit you. So, obviously, men are in crisis, and it's a situation that we're all dealing with, and it's a problem that we can solve. And so I hope this was helpful in kind of sharing my experience. I'll do more videos on building masculinity in general, just, in healthy ways, because it can easily be done. So anyway, yeah, it's been a wild ride with all this. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, and I appreciate your time.